What metal goes with it? Lead. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you some exercises. First of all, don't eat lead. All right. Bad for you. Don't
Okay.
eat it. Okay. It's okay to hold it in your hand. If you have a bit, in the house, you're not going to get lead poisoning from handling it. Just wash your hands afterwards. All right. If you don't have any lead in the house, you might actually still have some and you just don't know it. Check the bottoms of your curtains. Hmm? If you have heavy drapes and
Yeah.
curtains and whatnot, usually they'll put a little lead ball in the end of it because it's heavy, because it's a very weighted type of thing.
Mm.
So you might have some lead. You can dig it out and sew it back in later if you want to, but or you can buy a little hunk of it on Amazon or something, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right, but you can just get the sense, get the weight of it. Hmm? Feel it, understand what it feels like in your hands. Now, there are some very curious things about lead. It's one of the most reactive of the seven metals that we'll be talking about. It's definitely very reactive. It reacts with all kinds of things, but in an insulating way. In other words, it causes death to the things that it interacts with. Hmm? Nitrogen and all of these salts and things like that that it produces. It always makes almost invariably makes them inert. Hmm? Having to do with the idea of the death of something, the reaping of something.
Mm.
If you do ingest it, it ends up in your bones. All right, and you can't get rid of it in your bones. Yeah, and it kills you. Poisonous in that regard. Other interesting things about it. If you scratch it, it reveals a very shiny, bright, brilliant interior.
Mm.
Within a very short amount of time, it protects itself again. It oxidizes and it goes gray and dull again. Scratch it again, goes gray and dull. Yeah. Doesn't react with acid. This is why they use it in batteries, car batteries. Yeah, because you can hold things that are very caustic, acidic in
Mm.
lead, and it will keep it protected. Mhm.
Yeah.
They use it for waste plumbing, right? In fact, the word plumbing comes
Mm.
from PB, plumbum, which is what uh, they use lead pipes in Rome. PB is the chemical sign for lead.
Yeah.
Plumbum. Yeah. We have a
Mm.
plumb bob. All right, you know what that is? Bit of lead
Mm.
on a string that
Yeah.
shows you
Right.
through down. Yeah, exactly what down is. Plumb bob. Yeah. What else can you think of about lead? Do you have any experience with it? Have you ever held it? Have you ever? You
Yeah.
know what else? You know what else it does? You can actually melt it in a candle. Did you know that? It's
No.
that easy to melt. Yeah. Just a candle flame alone, open flame will melt lead. Usually, if you find lead as like a vein or an ore, you're going to find silver and gold nearby. In fact,
Yeah.
most naturally occurring lead has a bit of silver and gold in it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very much so. If you the hidden fire. You have to be very, very careful with fine shavings of lead because it will spontaneously combust. Talking about like if you grind it into a dust, you have to
Yeah.
store it in a vacuum because it will spontaneously combust. And what it produces is a very yellow, crystally kind of substance when it's done burning. Its ash is a sort of a yellow substance. Your homework for this
Yeah.
week,
Uh-huh.
uh, three things, okay? Learn about the planet Saturn. Read the Greek or Roman mythology about Saturn or Kronos. Greek being Kronos. Okay. Saturn. Right. Anyway, learn about the planet. Learn about it itself. Learn about the mythology surrounding it, and do the same thing for lead. Learn about what lead is used for, just culturally speaking, how
Mm.
lead is used, what its history is. Right.
Yeah.
Part of Rome's problem is that they used lead pipes and they ingested it, and it makes you kind of mad in the end. Hmm. In fact, they've linked anger issues to lead exposure. right? They stopped using lead in interior paints in the house
Mm.
because children might eat it. And I mean, like 0.03 parts per million or something in there is enough to cause certain types of brain damage. Yeah. Poor kids eating lead. It's also been linked to uncontrollable anger issues when a person gets older. Lead exposure can't control that sort of rage.
Mm.
NASA has done studies. You know NASA, right? NASA.
Mm.
Yeah, NASA's done studies. Um, Specifically, they want to take lead into space and watch some of its chemical reactions because what's been observed here on Earth is that a lot of chemical reactions that uh, employ lead in them, like lead nitrate, or manufacturing these sorts of things, actually produce more of it during the time when Saturn is more strong, visible, more visible. They don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, look it up. NASA's doing this research.
Yeah.
I want to take it out into space and see how it reacts when Saturn is at its zenith. But you do bring up an interesting point. Lead is used in shielding.
Mm.
Go get X-rays done. Wherever they're not X-raying you, they'll try and cover it in lead, right? Because it doesn't penetrate. They use
Yeah.
it elsewhere to diminish the reflection. Makes the glass look more clear because you don't get the specularities of the reflection when you mix lead into glass, for example. It's a light killer, radiation killer in general.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Everything that's above lead is radioactive and eventually decays into lead. Mm. The first highest stable element, like iridium and uranium and all of these sorts of things, keep spitting off particles until they become an isotope of lead. Mm,
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah, it takes eons in some
Yeah.
cases, but yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what it becomes eventually. It's opposite of silver in some respects. Also, it's similar to gold and opposite of silver. The way it's opposite to silver is the way that it expands in heat and contracts under cold, whereas silver tends to do the opposite, sort of like water does.